All right, man, peace. So, brothers, it seems as though everything is now starting to become clearer. Things are starting to come to a head. Why am I saying that? Because there have been two main narratives in the NBA thus far this season outside of LeBron James. That being the Kawhi Leonard narrative and the Kevin Durant narrative. I'm on record as stating in a previous video that I made, Doc Rivers has already asserted that they feel like, when I say they, I'm talking about the LA Clippers, Doc Rivers feels like they are at the forefront of being able to attain Kawhi Leonard after this season. I did a video about that a couple of weeks ago. I'm also on record as stating that I believe that the main reason why Draymond Green detonated on Kevin Durant is because he saw KD talking to the owner of the Clippers, Steve Ballmer, before their game. And I think that it may have cemented certain notions that have been put into his ear. And he decided that he was going to let KD know about it. Now we're getting this news report from Stephen A. Smith and the intrepid NBA reporter Brian Windhorst that the LA Clippers are eyeing both KD and Kawhi Leonard. And I think that they would make a phenomenal tandem. Of course, they're going to talk about it and I'm going to chime in.
Clip City's trying to beat Chip City. Stephen A. brought this up recently and...
Well, so have I. And I don't even have all the sources that Stephen A. Smith has.
This story has been all over the place on ESPN.com. Brian Windhorst, Jerry West, Doc Rivers, and the other team in LA are working on a plan to acquire both Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant this summer. Stephen A., how much pressure does this put on LeBron, Magic, and the Lake Show?
Let me say this first before Stephen A. Smith answers. Right now, the pressure is really on the LA Clippers to be able to seal the deal. They've never been able to seal anything approximating this before. The two best players in their franchise's history so far have been CP3, a.k.a. Chris Paul, and Blake Griffin. If they were able to attain Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard, that will automatically put the bullseye on them as the favorite to win the NBA championship next year, or at least one of the favorites. Let's say if the Lakers were able to trade for Anthony Davis and the Golden State Warriors were able to attain someone like a Tobias Harris. Both those teams would also be contenders to come out of the West. But without a doubt, the onus will be on Doc Rivers, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, and Jerry West to finally lead that franchise into a position of prominence, affluence, and something that they've never truly had before, that being success.
Immense pressure. Immense pressure. Let's call it what it is. LeBron James is under no obligation to win a championship this year. It's to get the Lakers to the playoffs, be competitive in the playoffs. I think they're going to the Western Conference Finals.
I'm prone to agree with you. I think that LeBron James has a lot more help than he gets credit for or his teammates get credit for. And that's strategically done by many of LeBron's supporters in the media to give him an out in case he comes up short. They can always say, well, he's playing with a bunch of young guys who don't know how to play with him.
To me, that would be a victory for the season. But we all know that the Golden State Warriors are the favorite to win the championship. That's a given. But after this year, you got to get somebody in free agency. Kevin Durant's going to be a free agent. Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard.
Well, we already know Kyrie Irving ain't signing with the Lakers. So don't even name him as a possibility. We know that shit ain't going to happen. And in light of many of the statements that Kevin Durant has been making over the last week or so, we can pretty much guesstimate, quote unquote, that Kevin Durant's not going to sign with the Lakers. That's why I've stated in other videos that it has been appearing more and more likely to me that Kevin Durant is going to sign with the LA Clippers if he does decide to indeed leave the Golden State Warriors. That would give him the best of both worlds. He'd be able to play in LA as his home city, and he'd also be able to go head-to-head with LeBron James.
And Anthony Davis signed with Clutch Sports under Rich Paul, and presumably he wants to be in LA. I even have some people saying that, you know what, he should demand a trade now.
I agree. Why wait? The Pelicans are not going anywhere. He might as well do it right now. The reason why he won't is because he does not want to look bad.
To try to facilitate his arrival in Los Angeles with LeBron James. You are Magic Johnson. You've got to get one of those players.
He will, believe me. Magic Johnson will get one of those players. Most likely Anthony Davis. I don't think that Kawhi is going to go there because I don't think that he wants to play with LeBron James either. Kawhi Leonard and KD, they need the basketball in their hands. And they don't want to stand there and watch LeBron James dribble. They don't want to play your turn, my turn with him. I think that if either one of them had to play your turn, my turn with anyone else, it would be with one another. That's why I stated that it was very obvious to me that when Kevin Durant came out and stated that LeBron James creates a toxic atmosphere with the teams that he plays with, that was an attempt to subliminally place a thought into the subconscious mind of Kawhi Leonard that he should consider playing with KD as opposed to LeBron if indeed he ends up in LA. So I do believe that right now the Clippers are the favorites to land Kevin Durant if he were to leave the Golden State Warriors.
If you don't get one of those players and the Clippers end up getting Durant and Kawhi Leonard, I mean, it's.
Notice how often Magic Johnson wears all black. Brothers, it's so apparent with so many of these guys what they're actually about. They're Baal worshippers.
It's a heist. Max, the only thing that I would compare it to is Jerry West stealing Shaquille O'Neal from the Orlando Magic like a thief in the night. That's
right, but you know what the difference is there, Stephen A. Smith? Shaquille O'Neal was ready to leave the Orlando Magic, and the Orlando Magic had never been able to attain to championship level success. They got to the final round, but I think that Shaq saw the writing on the wall there, that the Chicago Bulls were going to be a major impediment for at least the next 2 years. And he did not want to sit there and share the spotlight with Penny Hardaway, who was quickly becoming as popular, if not more popular than him, especially with the Little Penny commercials. Shaq just couldn't deal with that notion of all the attention not being on him. He really was an attention whore to the nth degree back then.
That's the only thing that I would compare it to. The fact that the Clippers are creating enough cap space to pursue two max players. Combine that with what Durant had to say about LeBron in terms of playing with him and how a star wouldn't necessarily want to play with LeBron James, or it's not to their advantage. Tacitly implying, but playing with me might be better. If you have a situation where you're the Los Angeles Clippers with Doc Rivers coaching his butt off, with this team overachieving with minimal expectations, with Jerry West and Lawrence Frank, with a billionaire in Baltimore who's forgotten to count more money than the Buss family even has. If you are the Los Angeles Lakers and the Clippers pulled that off, your only hope is to get an Anthony Davis.
Absolutely. If the LA... Oh my goodness. Absolutely. If the LA Clippers are able to land Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard, Magic Johnson is going to get on a three-way call with Adam Silver and the owner of the New Orleans Pelicans. And he's going to tell the owner of the New Orleans Pelicans, you're going to take what I give you. And Adam's going to make sure that you take what I give you, because I have to land Anthony Davis, not now, but right now.
So make no mistake about it, this is a big deal. It's something that
It's potentially a big deal. As of right now, all this is a rumor, Stephen A. Smith. Let's not act like Magic Johnson's supposed to be sitting at home shaking in his boots.
I reported a couple of weeks ago because I've been hearing around NBA. Everybody been talking about Kawhi. And I came here on First Take a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, look, man, I'm hearing Kevin Durant and the Clippers more and more and more. Now,
what shit you been hearing on my channel?
Now, whether or not that's going to happen remains to be seen. But I'll tell you something. It's getting very, very interesting in Tinseltown. No doubt about it.
What did I say? Wink.
Stephen A. Smith, I'm trying to figure out how come I have none of your sources, but I'm saying all this shit before you. Ain't that a bitch?
When KD made those comments, that one of two things were going on. Either he's telling Kawhi, forget LeBron, come play with me, or he's telling Kawhi, you don't want to play with LeBron because KD wants to play with LeBron. One thing KD does not want to happen is LeBron and Kawhi on the Lakers.
Right, but I don't think that he has to worry about that, because I don't think that Kawhi Leonard wants any parts of LeBron James.
Okay, we're going to discuss that later.
Yes, because I don't agree with that.
Let me tell you how much pressure's on Magic Johnson right now. OG Magic Johnson. He is OG. I mean, remember OG Bobby Johnson?
Yes.
But the original OG in the front office of the original answer, the front office of the NBA is Jerry West.
Absolutely.
It is so serious with Jerry West, and Stephen A. used the example I was going to bring up. Think of what happened before
Jerry West is competitive on the level of Michael Jordan. The difference is Jerry West is Michael Jordan if Michael Jordan understood how to build a team from the ground up.
Before they got Shaq. Jerry West put together a nice, exciting, fun-to-watch team that, I forgot, won 48 games, whatever, would make the playoffs. Everyone knew the team wasn't going to win a championship. But it was, Cedric Ceballos and these guys. It was fun to watch. And
I think that Laker team actually won over 50 games the year before Shaq got there.
And it was an okay team, and it wasn't,
Yeah, I think they had something like Nick Van Exel, Eddie Jones, Cedric Ceballos, Eldon Campbell. I think they had a nice little team.
Fans were showing up, but he didn't commit to any long-term contracts. He just showed this is a healthy organization, and he kept all that money for Shaquille O'Neal. He identified Shaquille O'Neal, he said, him. And in the draft, he identified Kobe Bryant. Jerry West was running around telling people he's going to be the greatest player of all time. Kobe Bryant, telling people in the media, don't dare repeat it, but they understood what was going on. He selected Shaq and Kobe, and it was off to the races. What's he doing right now? He put together a very functional, healthy team with the Clippers to send a message. This is a functional, healthy organization. He saved the money, no long-term deals.
Was able to trade away Blake, traded away CP3. Brilliant moves.
He's saving his money to make a run. He's identified, again, 2 players, KD and Kawhi. It's like, duh, it's not like identifying Kobe in the draft. But still, KD and Kawhi, it is serious. And Stephen A., this is why it's serious.
They would fit very well together as well.
Don't think LA can't be flipped, at least temporarily. We have argued about this before.
I agree with that, and I agree with it when Max Kellerman first put forth that assertion that any major city can be flipped. When he says flipped, he's talking about having a great legacy franchise, meaning a franchise that has won many championships, and then that lower level franchise, that beta franchise, like here in New York, you have the Knicks and the Nets, you have the Yankees and the Mets. The Mets were the franchise when it came to baseball from the mid to late 80s. They took over the town for a while. Max Kellerman is asserting that the Clippers can do the same thing in LA with the Lakers. I'm not quite sure if they can do that with LeBron James playing with the Lakers, but they'd definitely be able to do that if they had, say, if the Clippers had KD and Kawhi and the Lakers did not have LeBron. There's no doubt about it.
This before, I lived through it in the mid-'80s in this town in New York City. The Yankees were winning 90 games a season with the 2 best players in the majors, Ricky Henderson and Don Mattingly, on the same team. The Mets won the World Series in '86. They went back to the playoffs in '88. There were more Mets fans in this town than Yankees fans.
Agreed.
Fans, the attendance was better, the ratings were better, they were winning more. It can happen. So how much pressure is Magic Johnson under? For the first time in history, there's a danger because of Jerry West that LA can be flipped and be temporary.
Honestly, I knew as soon as Jerry West left the Golden State Warriors and went down to the Clippers that they were going to be a major problem for the Golden State Warriors in a couple of years. So that's truly going to be the matchup to watch. The Clippers against the Warriors over the next 3 to 4 years.
Temporarily a Clippers town. That's how much pressure.
That really doesn't matter to me right now. I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
So will I.
What I will tell you is this. The interesting element that I take from all of this, remember that Kevin Durant was a free agent, and before he decided to go to Golden State, one of the things that led to the falling out of Doc Rivers and Chris Paul wasn't just Austin Rivers. It was Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant, he gave the Clippers a courtesy conversation. He gave the Clippers a courtesy visit. He made it very, very clear there was no way in hell that he was going to the Clippers because he didn't like the dysfunctionality that reeked through this organization.
Absolutely. And the last thing that he would have wanted to do was play in that franchise with Blake Griffin and CP3 and those guys going back and forth like cats and dogs. That's why I state that if Golden State wants to re-sign Kevin Durant, they're probably going to have to trade away Draymond Green.
In terms of Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, CP3 with Austin Rivers being there. Not that he belongs in that conversation. I like Austin Rivers, but, we're talking about CP3 here and Blake Griffin at the time. Kevin Durant considered it a dysfunctional environment. CP3, being friends with Kevin Durant, wanted Kevin Durant to obviously talk to the Clippers at that particular moment in time. Kevin Durant made it very, very clear it was no way in hell he was coming. As a result, CP3 didn't bother to be present for the meeting with Kevin Durant, and because of that...
That was dumb.
That, at least in CP3's eyes, Doc Rivers never really let that go. It sort of was upset. According to what my sources tell me, Doc Rivers was definitely upset that CP...
As he should have been. You're supposed to be the captain of the team. I don't care how long you've had Kevin Durant on the phone. If Kevin Durant comes and pays the team a visit, no matter how dysfunctional he thinks the locker room is, the best way to disprove him believing that is to show up and show him that it's not really like what he thinks it's like. Just the fact that CP3 did not show up shows you that he's not that conscientious a leader. And there's a reason why he tends to be disliked in every locker room that he's ever been in.
CP3 wasn't there to help woo Kevin Durant because he felt he had a chance. They didn't have a chance then. They have a chance now. It's a different day in Clipperland. Jerry West, you know what I would...
I agree. And remember, Jerry West is the person who helped woo Kevin Durant to the Golden State Warriors.
We called Steph Curry the babyface assassin. You know what I'm going to call Jerry West? The quiet assassin. Because he does...
No, you call him the wrinkle face assassin.
He doesn't have a title. He doesn't. He's not the president. He's not the president of basketball operations. He's in the shadow. He's there to maneuver. It was him that helped with Mark Jackson, Joe Lacob, Bob Myers, and those guys. Him helped formulate the Golden State Warriors. He was a big reason why Kevin Durant elected to go to Golden State.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you how
Keep your eyes on all of this.
Let me tell you how soberly Jerry West views these things. Chris Paul is an all-time great. He's an MVP, almost MVP caliber player, but Chris Paul's not quite an MVP.
At his peak, I would say that he was a borderline MVP caliber player. Maybe from like 07 through like 2013, around that area.
There are players better than Chris Paul, because he's short. It's just the way it is. Like Kawhi Leonard, like Kevin Durant. When the Clippers had Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, there was a sense that here's the window they could take the town from the Lakers. But the fact is...
Right, but that does not really matter. That's pretty much just a consolation prize, being the best team in LA. The Clippers from a few years ago, they reminded me a lot of the early 1990s Cleveland Cavaliers. That was a team that had Mark Price, Craig Elo, Larry Nance, John Hot Rod Williams, Brad Daugherty. Very talented team. But very rarely could they get past the second round. I believe they got to the third round in 1992. And, of course, they got beat by the Bulls in 6 games. They got to the second round in 1993, and they got swept by Chicago, and that was pretty much all she wrote. And they had gotten beat by the Bulls in 88 in the first round and in 89 in the first round. So they could never get over the hump. It was a very similar dynamic to what we see with the LA Clippers, or what we saw with them a few years ago with them and Golden State. Even though they never matched up with Golden State in the playoffs, it was a similar energy there.
Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, not quite good enough, and so many GMs and front office.
My problem with you is that you seem to blame Chris Paul as much as Blake Griffin about that. I blame Blake Griffin.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is...
Well, they deserve equal blame. I think that both Blake Griffin and CP3 wanted the team to be their team. They wanted to be the face of the team. The issue is that Blake Griffin was a commercial whore, but so was CP3. They were always doing commercials, so they were always trying to compete to see who would be more popular in the locker room. The shit didn't work out because at the end of the day, neither one of those two players was good enough to captain that type of team to a championship. They just were not. Now, had they worked together perfectly, maybe they could have had a magic carpet ride season like a Dallas Mavericks in 2011, but they were never going to defeat a transcendent team like the Golden State Warriors. Every once in a while, when you look at the history of the NBA, you have certain teams that are able to sneak through the cracks if there are not any truly great teams in the league. Like San Antonio, they won 2 or 3 championships just waiting for great teams to kind of fall off. They were able to win in 1999 when Chicago fell off. They were able to win in 2003 when the Lakers fell off. And then they won a couple of championships in the mid-2000s when there were not any really great, phenomenal, memorable teams. But that's why, if you notice, they didn't win anything for 7 years until they had what I thought was the greatest Spurs team of all time, that 2014 team. And even the year before, in 2013, I thought they were better than Miami. And in 2012, I thought they were better than Miami as well, but they just ran into a buzzsaw. Kevin Durant just got so hot in those playoffs. But I think that had that Spurs team got to the finals in 2012, they probably would have beat Miami in 2012. In 2013, they should have beaten them if it wasn't for Ray Allen. And in 2014, of course, I mean, they ran through the Heat like a hot knife through butter.
it's important not to delude yourself if you're in the front office of an NBA franchise. Like, well, that guy, if I squint, looks like he could be the best player on a championship team. So I'm going to lock him up to a long-term deal and hope for the best.
I agree.
Jerry West does not delude himself.
I agree. And that's definitely something that so many GMs do. They bring a second-tier star player onto a team, or maybe even a third-tier star player like a Jimmy Butler or a Klay Thompson, and try to make him the alpha, give him the max, and hope for the best. That's never going to work. Whenever you're talking about a great team or all-time great team, you normally have to have a top-tier superstar, meaning what, a top 4 or top 5 level player in the NBA, a second-tier superstar, and then a high-level third-tier star or superstar per se. That's how championship teams normally win.
He looks and he really asks the question, that guy good enough? And he's identified 2. It's not Chris Paul, it's not Blake Griffin, that level of player, which is just about the highest level. There's a higher level. Let's leave LeBron out of it. It doesn't get better other than LeBron, than KD and Kawhi, and he's not fooling himself.
Well, other than Steph.
Those are the 2 he's going after.
We'll get into this a little more later, but can you imagine the Lakers don't win a championship with LeBron in this run?
I can imagine that. I can imagine that, Molly Karen, but let me say this very quickly. Once again, the league is going to do everything within their power to put LeBron James in a competitive position to come out of the West. In order to do that, they're going to have to broker a deal between the Lakers and the Pelicans, and that will happen.
Well, no, it wouldn't be as bad if LeBron didn't win because Golden State got to stay together.
Yeah.
It would be exponentially worse if he didn't win because 2 of the marquee guys on the free agent market chose to the Clippers.
When we know what the Clippers are compared to the Lakers, little brother.
We're going to revisit this topic later in the show, and I want to answer that question then.
Perfect. Can't wait for that. What a tease. Oh.
Okay, so now that's basically it on that. We'll see how things go with the potential tandem of Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant. I think that Kevin Durant has been teasing about this possible coming together of his superstardom and Kawhi Leonard's potential superstardom. We'll see what happens. So peace.